The character of a human being, of a man or a woman, is stemmed in consistency. How consistent you are. Who you are behind closed doors when nobody's listening, all the lights are off, all the cameras are off. Who you are.
Bandwagon Buffs, man. Hell of a game. 2 win for 500.
Buff Nation, what up? BWB, my bandwagon Buffs. What it is, what it does, and what it's gonna be. It's your man's Harry Billion. Family, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. Make sure to give me the thumbs up and don't forget to hit that bell notification so that you can get the videos as soon as I upload it to YouTube. Family, I gotta go ahead and get into this video real quick, so that's all the business I got. You know what time it is. Let's work. All right, guys, so it ain't like it wasn't gonna happen. We knew it was gonna happen. The narrative was gonna change. I didn't really anticipate how quickly it would change, but I would say what a difference a week make, or what a difference a game makes. Yeah, so the narrative is changing as expected. I'm gonna approach this whole narrative change cautiously because the season is not over. As I always tell our constituents, the BWB, Buff Nation, we are not delusional around these woods. We can celebrate and we can be happy, but the season is not over. It's not like we have everything in the bag. So we got to be very cautious on how we celebrate and how we say certain things around here. We have a lot of work to do. If you saw our defense, the defense needs to tighten up. There was way too many holes that needs to be plugged in that defense, also on our special team. Obviously, we got to get into some of the narratives that have changed since the first win. One of the biggest mouths that tried to throw some shade our way or just try to talk some smack before the season started, before they knew anything about us, was Matt Rhule, and I call him Matt Don't Rule Jack. Let's find out what he's saying now. Go ahead, Matt. Take it over.
He's won in everything he's done in football. He's won as a player. He's won as a coach. So I think everyone maybe thinks, like, outside, not me. Everyone else thinks like, well, this is all a show, and that
Let's run that back.
he's won in everything he's done in football.
He's won at everything he's done in football. The narrative was Coach Prime is not a good coach. He's coached at HBCU. HBCUs are not any good. A lot of people were saying this is the big leagues now. You are no longer in the little leagues, like the Pee-wee leagues, clown emojis, all of those things. And what we were saying is that Coach Prime is a winner. He's a natural winner. Natural winners are going to find ways to win, no matter where they are at. No matter where they're at, they're going to find ways to win. Jackson State FCS football broke away from the FBS, and maybe they are one step below. They don't have the resources like the big boys. I got videos on my page that talks about how much money in the process of FBS. Go watch that video. It'll tell you. So it's about resources. It's not necessarily about, can those kids hit? Do they know how to draw up schemes to play football? Before Coach Prime got to Jackson State, they were not ranked. There were other teams. If you remember, they lost in that Celebration Bowl. So there were coaches there that know how to play football. But he went there, he went undefeated 2 seasons. You got to take that into consideration. So he's always won.
He's won as a player. He's won as a coach. So I think everyone maybe thinks, like, outside, not me. Everyone else thinks like, well, this is all a show, and that he's the most serious person about football. Like, his poster was on people's walls for a reason as a player, because he's one of the hardest practicing, hardest playing people that's ever played the game, right? So
Coach Prime is deadly serious. You can try to clown him all you want. Coach Prime is deadly serious. It's not a game. The way that he prepares, what he puts into the game, how he prepared his body to get ready for the game, he understands the game. A lot of people went out on the limb and were just saying some really nasty things like, this is not Pee-wee football. This is the big boys. Respect the game. You all remember that video that I made? I think it's called Welcome to the Big Leagues. If you go back, you'll see it. Where the guy he's on Twitter and he's talking about welcome to the big leagues, respect the game. Nobody respects the game more than Coach Prime. Nobody. I'm doing this to make sure that people remember to put some respect on the guy's name. I don't know what y'all were thinking. I don't know where y'all thought the human being that I was talking about, the character that I was speaking about, was missing. Y'all thought I was playing. There was no games being played here. I don't see no clown emojis now. Where are your clown emojis? Put them up. The season is not over, and then we got to be cautious. We don't want to be all boastful and then lose the rest of the games. We're still 1-11. Now that'll be a big shame, but we know that's not going to happen. So no, we're not trying to be boastful, but let this energy be the same energy, because nobody was saying this type of stuff when we were saying it. We were screaming this. Let's keep going.
He's one of the hardest practicing, hardest playing people that's ever played the game, right? So why would we think that his team wouldn't be the same? You know, CJ White's on our staff was a strength coach for him. He told us like early on, like, let me tell you how they're going to practice. Let me tell you what they're going to do. So the utmost respect for Coach Sanders. Like when he was the head coach of Trinity Christian, I recruited Quaylen Jones out of there. He's a football guy. Like like all the other stuff, the commercials and all those things. Those are extra things you get to do when you're elite at football. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all. You know, I mean, I think everything he's ever done in football, he's been successful at, and so he's being successful here already.
The character of a human being, of a man or a woman, is stemmed in consistency. How consistent you are. Who you are behind closed doors when nobody's listening, all the lights are off, all the cameras are off. Who you are. Your character has to do with consistency. You say things, you do things when it's not popular. You have to be consistent. For us to know the type of man you are or the type of woman that you are is how you move consistently. It's not when things are convenient. You don't say things when they're convenient. You do and you say things because that's who you are. That's your character. So you're always going to move the same way. That's what I want to point out today. I want to point out that you got to be very careful of what you're now hearing in the media. Be very careful of what you're now listening to. These are the same people that a lot of y'all were listening to. And I'm here to caution you today. Be careful when you hear people say something when you're winning, because they're going to say something else when you start to lose. So be very careful. Most of these people are paid to have several narratives. These are paid professionals who are supposed to come up with a narrative, win, lose, or draw. They have a narrative for each aspect. If you win, they'll talk about your character, what type of player you were, how you prepare, your strengths. These people are paid to build you up and then tear you down if you have some misfortunes. That's how the media is set up. So be careful how you listen to these people. They are the same ones that were giving predictions and telling everybody, look at the elements. They lost last year, they stunk, This is the reason why they're going to lose. Now they're saying all of these great things. Take it out a grain of salt. If misfortune comes, if they lose a couple of games in a row, that narrative is going to change as well. And then they will start talking about the negative traits, how he was talking to people in the media, how he was being bombastic to people, how he was rubbing that whole TCU win in everybody's face. And now look, he's losing. If he loses one game, it's like, okay, we expected it. He wasn't going to be undefeated. Coach Prime is going to be ready. He loses 2 games, the narrative is going to get even worse. This is starting to look exactly like we predicted. Like we said, he was going to only win 2 to 3 games. He beat the weaker TCU team out of the FBS, but can he handle the rest of those strong teams in the Pac-12, or even if it comes to a bowl game? I want you guys to be prepared for every narrative and don't trust these people with a grain of salt. I'm telling you, you can't trust them. You didn't hear none of this stuff when Coach Prime was recruiting, when kids were decommitting from the program, when Coach Prime was in the trenches trying to get and lure kids to come play for him. Everybody came for him, including this guy right here that we're listening to today. He wasn't saying all of these things. There was no such thing coming out of his mouth like people had Coach Prime posters on their walls for a reason. He's a winner. He's a great coach. None of that stuff was coming out of this mouth. Not at all. So you got to be very careful. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I can't respect you when you say things when it's popular. Your character is always going to be the same because that's who you are. That's your true colors. Anytime you're going to be consistent. Matt Rhule is not consistent. A lot of people are not consistent in the media. You say one thing about somebody when they're down, and then you say another thing when they're up. Coach Prime was a winner when you guys were saying all of the things that y'all were saying in the media. He was still the same guy. He's been the most consistent. He's been praying to his Jesus Christ consistently. He was never ashamed of who he was as far as being a Christian. He never backed down. He never wavered. If he had praise for somebody in the media, he would give them praise. He could stand on his word no matter what because everything is recorded and you can see that for yourself. So when it's not popular, he says it. When it's popular, he says it. That's consistency. That's what we are expecting out of good people. When everybody was coming for Coach Prime, you know which coach actually said, you know what, Coach Prime is a great coach? Was Sonny Dykes, the TCU coach. When people like Matt Rhule and everybody else was throwing shade, people like Sonny Dykes was coming out and saying he cares about the game. Not when it's convenient, not when the game is over now, he won, he put some scores on the board. Now you can come out and say, well, he's a great coach, he's been a winning coach, he's a winner, and all of these things. Now you're saying those things, but when it wasn't convenient, when everybody was clowning him, when everybody was saying that he was not a great coach, he was not a coach at all, he couldn't coach, he doesn't know X's and O's, we didn't hear you say these things. Nobody came out and spoke the truth to power. You couldn't be that lone jack to come out and say people had Coach Prime's posters on their wall. You couldn't be that guy because your character is not in check. I can't ride with your message when your message only comes out when it's popular or when it's convenient. Y'all remember Colin Kaepernick? When Colin Kaepernick did what he did in his protest, his silent protest, the country was split. Football was split. From a simple protest, a quiet protest, everybody started saying that he was against the military and all of those things. Until the NFL came out and says we stand with Colin Kaepernick. When it was popular, the next thing you know, everybody and their mama, all of the other athletes, then they started taking a knee, locking arms. Jerry Jones and everybody holding arms. And everybody's like, oh, we stand with Colin Kaepernick. Your character is what you do consistently. We know that Coach Prime is consistent. His character is strong. He doesn't waver. He speaks truth to power. And I will say this, there are a few things that I don't agree with about the approach. The only pushback that I would have is that you never want your good to be spoken evil of. You always want to take the humble approach. The way that he approached the media, it could set himself up so that his good and the good that God wants to do may be spoken evil of, because now if something doesn't go your way, then they have something to say. Now you're setting yourself up in a tough spot. What was all that stuff you were saying now? You're God and this and X, Y, and Z. That's what I have a pushback on. Like he said, he's human and he's going to remember when somebody's coming for you consistently, you being human, you're going to have some things to say. You're going to have to let them know, I told you this was going to happen. So the human part came out. People may see it as being combative. They may see it as being cocky. That can come back later to bite you in the butt, and it causes people to speak evil of all of the good that God helped you to accomplish in order for you to move forward in what he has in the bigger scheme that he has set up for later. And I do understand some of y'all may come for me. Like I said, I'm always going to speak my truth on this station. That's the character that I'm speaking about. Even though it's not popular to say what I'm saying, I still have to say it because it's how I feel. I feel like he may have set himself up for his good to be spoken evil of because it came across a little cocky. It came across a little combative. And if I get fried for saying that and not allowing Coach Prime to shoot his shot, to say what he had to say, then let me get fried and you can come for me. I understand it. But you have to understand that if it was anybody else, if the shoe was on the other foot and you heard somebody speaking that way, especially to the media who never forget, they stay petty no matter what. They're always going to remember. They're always going to put that stuff in your face. I personally wish that we didn't have that little moment of pushback against the media, even though I feel like he should have shot his shot. But maybe with some reflection, a little bit of guidance, and a little bit of counseling, spiritual counseling, he will have a different approach next time, because what God is trying to do is way bigger than trying to put something in the face of people who maybe not have your best interest at heart to begin with. You always want to take that approach, because if something doesn't go your way, you always have a leg to stand on, and God can always get the glory out of every situation. I wanted to make sure that I made that specific point. Stay believing. If you are a constituent, give Coach Prime a chance. Let him be human. Coach Prime is a different breed. Believe the good things that they are saying about Coach Prime now, and also know that he's human. Everything is not always going to go great, but give the guy a chance. Believe in the good traits, but know that life is life. Telling this guy that he was a good player, but he's not a good coach, he has to keep proving it over and over and over and over again to all of y'all, because you keep listening to the same people who have something great to say when things are going good. You're going to jump on that bandwagon, a negative bandwagon, when everybody's clowning him and clown him. But then when everybody starts saying good things, then you're going to be the same one to say, well, yeah, you know what I'm saying, Coach Prime has been that guy all his life. What does that say about you personally? Think about it. What does that say about you? Okay, family, that is all the information that I have for this video. I hope you got to learn something out of it. And if you did, please make sure to smash that subscribe button to help this channel grow. That's all I do here. I'm going to have to leave it right there. You know who I am. I'm Harry B. And that right there was the Liberian Perspective. That's TLP Sports Club.